Today's daily Bible thought marks midway through the book of Jonah. And I kind of count this the middle because, the big fish already came and swallowed him. So I think the first half of the book of Jonah is all about him avoiding God, and then the big fish swallows him. And the second half of the book of Jonah is him dealing with God, but not necessarily surrendering his will. You'll find out. But anyway, this part, when he's in desperation, he told the sailors, just toss me overboard. And then when they did, they tried not to. They tried to row and get away, but they couldn't. But when they did throw him overboard, I think, he thought he was going to die. I think he just assumed that was it. It was over. And yet, remember, I read verse 17 of chapter 1 because I felt bad just leaving him overboard. And God prepared a fish to swallow him. So now we join Jonah in the fish. I'm going to read the first verse of chapter 2 and the second verse and then the 10th verse. His prayer is longer. Please read Jonah yourself. But this is what Jonah chapter 2 verse 1, 2, and 10 have to say. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from inside the fish, which proves you can pray anywhere, anytime. Verse 2, he said, I cried out to the Lord in my great trouble, and he answered me. I called to you from the land of the dead, and Lord, you heard me. And so Jonah recognizes that he cried out to God, and God did hear him. Even though Jonah had disobeyed, even though Jonah had run the opposite direction, even though Jonah's in a big fish right now, inside the stomach, like, ew, had to be disgusting. We don't know. I mean, he doesn't ever share. I'm kind of glad, but I don't know. I'm just curious what in the world that would be like, and it couldn't have smelled good. But God had prepared the fish so that it was safe, so that it would allow Jonah to be alive. He ends up being in this fish for 3 days, which, interestingly enough, Jesus uses that when he talks about the sign of Jonah. 3 days dead and then risen from the dead. That's Jesus. Jonah, 3 days in the belly of the fish, and he cries out to God. Verse 10, after Jonah's prayer. So if you read chapter 2, the first part of chapter 2 is Jonah's prayer. And then verse 10, then the Lord ordered the fish to spit Jonah out onto the beach. So the fish throws up, and there's Jonah in the midst of it. Eek. Had to be disgusting then too. But I find this interesting that the Lord ordered the fish. The fish had to obey. The fish was prepared by God and obeyed God and did what God told it to do. Creation does that. Man, not so much. We don't do Jonah's proof. We don't do what we're told to do. God said, go to Nineveh. Jonah said, I'm going to Tarshish. But now the Lord ordered the fish to spit Jonah out onto the beach. So now we'll see what happens next. But for me, I think I want to listen to God the first time rather than having to get swallowed by a fish.